We're now just 3.5 days out. It's Friday. I'll be back this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. I'm intending to organize the crew to come in and do a limited 2-3 hour broadcast that'll be internet only. Stations are welcome to pick it up. We'll put it up on the satellite sometime tomorrow evening. Too much is breaking. Too much is happening right now. Now, the New York Times 3 days ago did a review of the high priestess, and we're going to our guest, of the cult that the head of the Democratic Party, or the head of Hillary's campaign, Podesta, attends. Where on the menu they have blood, semen, mother's milk, and they conduct ceremonies and then sacrifice children in effigy. At least that's what it appears. So we have the videos. I was told by our NYPD source, and told you this 2 days ago, that it was going to come out that it was basically a big blackmail operation. This is in the new Wikileaks. We're not saying that actual child sacrifice is happening here, but this is real Satanism. And she's even done a Reddit, Ask Me Anything, and Buckley can pop in and tell you about the high priestess, where she said, oh, if it's public, it's not a ritual, but if it's private, it is. And that's obviously what I told you last hour before I was aware of that. That's how they do it. It's how they sell this occult stuff to the public. But this is what Assange just says is coming out. And reportedly, stuff even wilder than this is coming out. So, Buckley, before we go to William Benny, with big bombshells on WikiLeaks and more, he's been vindicated, saying that this was a U.S. intelligence leak. That's now coming out everywhere. But real fast, Buckley, getting into that Reddit point from an Ask Me Anything with this lady, and tell us about her.
Exactly. So basically, there's lots of different celebrities that are, talk about the Illuminati, like Jay-Z, and some of the other celebrities that sort of hint at it with the imagery inside of their videos, etc. And the question is this always just some sort of playful take on spiritualism and just kind of a jokey kind of thing that's a little bit scary and spooky like Halloween, or is it real? And so when pressed by the reality of it, they're always going to fall back on, okay, no, it's art. We're just expressing ourselves in a certain way, that's the darkness in our souls, the yin and the yang, the shadow, etc. But however, here is a really descriptive point. Mrs. Abramovich did a Reddit Ask Me Anything, and in that AMA, somebody said, Marina, what do you see the occult having within contemporary art? Can magic be made, not simply appropriated / performed? And this was her answer. Everything depends on which context you are doing what you are doing. If you are doing the occult magic in the context of art or in a gallery, then it is art. If you are doing it in a different context, in spiritual circles or private houses or on TV shows, it is not art. The intention, the context for what is made and where it is made defines what is art or what is not. So essentially, what she's doing right here is she is professing the fact that she is literally buying into this demonology and this idea of using power, occultic power, to subjugate people and torture people for their own means and for their own ascension into power over people.
That's right. And Buckley himself's an expert on this. We ought to get him to come in and interview about it someday. Thank you so much, Buckley. Now, that's one of our top researchers, Buckley Hammond, been here at InfoWars off and on for 20 years. Now, William Benny joins us. Again, we don't normally cover topics like this. I'm here as a sociologist and anthropologist looking at how they control political circles. Just like a local gang will have you go rob a liquor store and shoot the clerk, become a MAID member, so they have dirt on you. But we've known from WikiLeaks and we've known from other sources, law enforcement, that really bad stuff with kids is coming out, the occult, you name it. This has now been released. This is a satanic ritual, Aleister Crowley, secret rituals going on with the head of her campaign. I have Bill Clinton in his own book. We're going to go over this after William Benny leaves us. Here's the Washington Post and CNN. Book says Hillary talked to the dead. It goes on to say that Bill Clinton practices voodoo. In his own words, he thinks it's beautiful and wonderful to have evil and good spirits enter him. This is the new article on Infowars.com. Flashback. Occultic Hillary summons the dead, refuses to speak to Christ. This is a new article by Kit Daniels. You cannot make this up. Top story on Drudge. The FBI, quote, says they believe she's pure evil, quote, the Antichrist. This is the Guardian. Now, William Benny's a scientist, a mathematician, top code breaker living, former technical director of the NSA. We don't cover stuff like this. He doesn't cover stuff like this, but we're covering the contents of what's in the 650,000 emails that were clearly to frame people. That's coming out. I have to tell you, our sources in the government have been so on target. Doug Hagman's coming on a little bit later with the Northeast Intelligence Network. He has his NYPD sources. He said a lot of this on air. He didn't want to say the Satanism on air. I talked to him off air because it was so shocking. But he said crimes against children, stuff just unspeakable. The police, look, our government's not perfect, but imagine the stuff Hillary's done is so bad. They admit there's a total mutiny in the FBI. So William Benny hinted at this 6 months ago. He's been clear the last few months. He's been SWAT team raided before for just talking to Congress. But we now have the former British ambassador coming out 2 days ago saying it's the U.S. government leaking it. We have members of Congress saying that. Benny was the first to say it. Assange has come out in an interview conducted by the University of Dartmouth and said the Russians have nothing to do with it. So they're trying to deflect away from what's happening in the WikiLeaks and in other documents saying it's the Russians. Clearly, it's not. William Binney, helped bring down the Soviet Union and was equivalent of a multi-star general heading up the NSA. He's not a Russian agent. I'm not a Russian agent. We're just patriots telling the truth. So, Mr. Binney, it's bizarre to get into all this, but can you speak to, before we get into what other WikiLeaks may be coming out, how you knew early on or sensed, or I guess had sources, that this was U.S. intelligence? But separately, I mean, what's already come out is so damning, and Assange says what's coming out next is even worse. What do you want to tackle first, sir?
It's good to be with you again, Alex. But I would say the thing that tipped me off was the fact that the intelligence community was not coming out and saying exactly who did it, because they've got control of the entire network. Now, when you do that, anything passing across the network, you know where it comes from and where it goes to. So there's no excuse for them not knowing. So that gave me the clue that right away it was not somebody passing things across the net or hacking in. It was somebody inside who had the data and took it out and then passed it on to WikiLeaks. That was the basic clue to me.
They've got to be panicking, because the word is new leaks are coming out every day as the government really, I guess, en masse. In the beginning, a patriot's a pretty scarce man, but in time when his cause succeeds, the timid join him, because then it costs nothing to be a patriot. It was really hard to be a William Binney or a Mr. Drake or others. Now, as more go forward, as we realize how bad the Clintons are, it seems to be a tsunami's coming. What's your view on that?
I think Thomas Jefferson said it pretty well. He said, we're heading to collapse. The only two things that have to happen as a government, the only two things that have to happen is centralized control and corruption. And we've passed both those tests. With the collection of data on everybody, that's centralized power and control, and with all the corruption we're seeing now. And the WikiLeaks is one of the only sources we get that is exposing all of this corruption. But you're getting the sense now that some of the people internally, I know a lot of the people in the intelligence agencies and the police are really good people, and they can't. This is sickening them, and so they're starting to revolt internally too. So I think all of that is kind of summing up that we are now starting a revolt against this process of centralized control and corruption.
I know you can't talk about classified matters, but it's well known that using the occult is a way to rope people into crimes so they can be blackmailed. Looking at this latest stuff coming out with, this top lady promoted by the New York Times, this loved by the Democrats and all these billionaires, hanging out with the top, Democratic Party people in Aleister Crowley rituals. That's how they're described by them. Bathtubs of blood, simulated human sacrifice. I don't want to mention the things on air that are going on here, but there's videos of it. And then reportedly, what's going to come out is even worse. As an expert on criminal activity, I would say, formerly running the NSA, what do you make of this?
Well, it's pretty consistent with the people. The KGB used to do this all the time, try to entice people into doing things that they would be embarrassed about or would not want exposed. And then they'd use that against them as blackmail to convert them into an agent for them. This is pretty standard. This is what Bush, Cheney, Hayden, and Tenet did with some of the members of Congress. They roped them in, and then they were committed. And they did the same thing with the FISA court senior judge in early 2002. So it's very similar. It's the same process. This has gone on since since humans have tried to organize into civilization.
So it's a system of corruption. The average person doesn't understand corruption isn't just people become corrupt. The corruptors get you involved in the corruption to expand it.
Yep, that's right. They'll try to rope you in any way they can.
Wow. Well, they were unable to rope you in, and you stopped them, and it's good to know, and it's been somewhat declassified that until you left and others left, they were not spying on the general public. They were doing it legally and lawfully, targeting governments, which is your job. Now it's completely wide open. Oh, but we're not safe, though. ISIS, they tell us, could strike the election, and they've brought in all these unvetted refugees. It's just crazy.
Well, they're setting us up again, aren't they? They're bringing in people who will attack us eventually, some of them anyway. And so all that does is perpetuate the fear-mongering on terrorist attacks. That means they continue to get more money and get to do what they want to do and keep everybody else in the dark and just keep them uninformed and manipulable. Then now they all can be manipulated any way the central power wants. That's what that power gives them.
Wow. I've been asking the question here. You're the expert. What is it like for you to sit back when you got persecuted, others did, for just testifying secretly to Congress about illegal spying that you were trying to expose? Folks being sent to jail, you name it. You've been vindicated. But I guess that's bittersweet because now the corruption's admitted, but nothing's being done about it. And WikiLeaks, this drip of just more and more bona fide crime and lying to Congress and covering up crimes and shelling out our secrets. And the media sits there and plays dumb and tries to ignore the real meat and potatoes. But there's no way Hillary long-term can get away with all this.
No, I mean, even if she gets elected, this is still going to go on. I mean, Wikileaks, I'm sure, is not going to end and stop. And certainly, it seems to me anyway that there are so many, unhappy is probably not a strong enough word, but sick people. People have gotten sick for what's been going on corruption-wise in our government. You know, for example, in the Department of Justice, when they attempted to prosecute us, they fabricated evidence. And they put it in an indictment, and we were going to be indicted according to our lawyer. But since I caught them and had evidence of malicious prosecution, they dropped it and ran. But the point is, they fabricated the evidence, and someone in the DOJ felt so bad about it, they sent us a copy of their draft indictment. So we've got all that as evidence of what they're doing. I mean, it's no longer, as I keep saying now, it's no longer a Department of Justice; it's a Department of Just Us.
I'm kind of seen, and I'm talking about myself, but I'm in the middle of the story, so I have to. As like a bellwether of being this radical, but as everything we've talked about and our guests have talked about, because our guests are the big secret of the show, that's really what InfoWars is, not so much Alex Jones. And as everything we've talked about comes out exactly as we said, our credibility is just exploding right now. There's a big meme on the internet that, wow, Alex Jones was right. But I just want to be clear. I wasn't right. You were right. Drudge was right. Colonel Schaefer was right. Cy Hirsch was right. I mean, I have all these major heavy hitters that are the top journalists, the top experts on, and they're all basically saying the same thing. So the American people keep saying, give us a better government. Our government's what's bad. But really, most people in the government have gone public and said no, and the American people are too busy watching football games. So there's always this demonize the government. And sure, it's too big, it's out of control. But isn't it the people now? It's their turn to do something? Because we've seen incredible heroism by people out there doing the right thing to get us the truth.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Alex, because you're one of the very few people in media who will carry these kinds of conversations. I mean, the mainstream media will not touch anything national security related, and they will, of course, they'll cover up, and they won't touch anything that's detrimental to the Democrats. So, then they'll attack the Republicans. So that's their mantra. That's their whole operational process. But fortunately, we have you and some others in the media and radio and TV who will air this kind of information so that people have a chance.
Well, and also Oliver Stone did a great job. You were a top technical advisor. Film is incredible. Snowden, and we're all in this together. Clearly, sir, they're coming after the internet. We've heard a lot about internet kill switches. I know you can't get into it, but if anybody knows about it, it'd be you. They admit since you left, Obama has put these control systems in to kind of force feed down websites messages they want and kind of commandeer the web more than killing the web. A, can you kill the web? And B, can you speak to that?
Yeah, it is. It's possible to shut off switches and things like that, and servers that manage the web operations. They certainly can do that because they've got implants in. The last slide in Snowden's material said they had 50,000 implants in the worldwide network. Now that means software and hardware implanted. Combinations of things like that implanted in the switches and servers that run the network worldwide. So, if they have a little instruction in there that says close down the switch or close down the server, they could send it out in a broadcast way and shut down the whole network.
And that's why I think that's the strongest revelation of Snowden in the film. You learn they put this into the entire grid. What if AI malfunctioned, or what if a foreign state or hackers or an insane person got in control of those switches? I mean, it sounds like they've built in something that is just incredibly dangerous.
Yes, that's another short-sighted thing they did. It's a matter of, again, I keep saying they have no monopoly on smart people. There's a lot of people around the world can figure out these things or detect weaknesses or also find, problems in the software that they've implanted and manipulate that software. That's not unquestionable. I mean, it's a process of having smart people look at software and figure out how to do it. And once they do, the whole network is vulnerable.
Boy, it's almost like the devil runs things or something. I tell you, this is really bad.
Unfortunately, the technology makes all this possible, too. And they haven't really figured out a smart way of monitoring everything and stopping it. Dr. John Taggart and I, back in 1991 or 92, we had proposed a way that would be able to stop this kind of stuff. And that was we proposed to NSA internally that we would set up a set of software and implant it in all the network logs worldwide for the NSA network, and be able to monitor everybody on the network, what they did as they did it, and then be able to stop them if they're doing something wrong or, prevent things from happening. So it was a matter of knowing everything that was happening.
Stay there. Break this down. We've got a break, sir. Come back and explain this to us. We'll be right back. But the problem is it works. They didn't want that. They want problems. That's right. The United States is now run by the TPP, all these big multinational agreements. We really are a captured country. And the establishment hopes that it's so over the top what they've done. The power grab is so big, the global government they're building is so out of control that they just ignore the fact that it's being constructed until it's too late, and then you just roll over the opposition because no real opposition ever formed. And the last time William Benning was on, I said, what's their main goal? He said, global corporate government. That's why this is international. That's why it scoops up all the data. And he was getting into a system they were developing that was constitutional, that was specifically targeting, but they didn't want it. Please continue.
Where did I leave off? Alex, help me here.
You were just getting into how you guys had developed a system that did violate people's rights,
okay.
But yeah.
I'm right with you now. Okay, yeah, and this was in 1991 or 92. What we had proposed internally in NSA was we would develop all the software to do this and be able to monitor all the programs, all the productivity of each and every program in the world, and what people on their worldwide network were doing, and be able to do calculations like return on investment and things like that, so we could monitor the success or failure of any of the programs and things like that. So the first, we had two groups of oppositions internally in NSA. The first group were the analysts. They said, "You mean you're going to monitor everything I'm doing on the network?" And we said yes, and said you'll be able to say I'm not smart here or there, and I need training here or there. And we said yes, and we thought that'd be a good thing to do. And they said, "I don't want you monitoring me. You mind your business, do your job. I'll do mine." And the second group were the managers of NSA, and they said, "You mean to tell me that you'll have knowledge of all the return on investment of every program we're running, and they'll know the status and success or failure of every program and its development as it progresses?" We said yes. And they'll also know how we're spending money and moving it around internally in NSA. We said yes. And, they'll also see all the contractors and how they manipulate or use contractors to help develop the proposals and all of that. So that, contractors in general write the proposals for NSA to issue contracts to them. So it's like an incestuous relationship.
Sure, so the big enchilada here is the NSA can spy on everybody but themselves, and it's not spying when you're the top spy agency to make sure you've not been penetrated, to make sure the networks are working, and to watch everybody. I would expect at the NSA, I better be spied on, but instead, the watchers are the only group that doesn't get watched. That sounds insane.
Yeah, well, the reason they did that is because they didn't want Congress, and they said this, they didn't want Congress to know all this stuff. Because after all, they might cancel our programs, And so
now they basically have taken over, and they have wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, our proposal lasted just a month and a half. We had barely a chance to express the proposal, and it was killed. So, but that's why Snowden could take all the material that he did, and they didn't even know anything.
Well, you've made that point. This makes it so easy to penetrate because they've done this.
Yeah, right.
We've only got a minute left. I want to thank you for your time. I know a film's coming out in very, very soon. AGoodAmerican.org. That's a documentary that you're in. You're not just a Hollywood film. I want to have you back up for that. In the last minute, any other points you'd like to make, sir?
No, except that Thomas Jefferson had it right. He was a true visionary. He saw how. He just understood how people operated, I guess, was the key.
He did. He wrote a Declaration of Independence. He basically founded the country. People think it's George Washington. It was Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, and he basically said, humans do this. We're now, once we're formed as a government, we're heading toward collapse. And the only two things that have to happen, are a centralized power, which they now have, and corruption, which we are clearly seeing in these emails from Wikileaks.
But the good news is balance is coming into things. Nature abhors a vacuum, and the truth's coming out. So the corrupt establishment is in full panic mode, and good folks in government are helping and leaking the info, and the new media is pushing it. So, wow, what a time to be alive. Thank you so much, William Benning. Have a great weekend.
All right, thank you.
Wow, that is a true patriot right there, AGoodAmerican.org. We'll be back. Don't forget, InfoWarsStore.com. We need your support, folks. Didn't plug that whole hour. That's how we fund ourselves. A lot of big specials. One more day on the storable food. 30 to 40% off. My fellow Americans, my fellow humans on planet Earth, there is an epic, legendary awakening of nationalism and populism happening from the Brexit to the Donald Trump phenomenon to Russia pulling out of the New World Order and arresting the bankster oligarchs. Humanity's will for self-determination and freedom is expressing itself. The great classical liberalisms of Thomas Jefferson and Francis Bacon are reawakening right now. And it's because of the historical times we live in that InfoWars is going to embark on an unprecedented 52-hour broadcast. We've done 24-hour broadcasts before, but we've never gone 52 hours. This Monday, from 11 a.m. Central right through Tuesday, right into Wednesday. When the Wednesday show ends at 3 p.m. Central, we will broadcast for an unprecedented, legendary, over-the-top 52 hours live. The second Great Awakening is taking place. We are in the dawn of a new era of renaissance, of rediscovery and human liberty. Donald Trump, the Brexit, InfoWars, Matt Drudge, Breitbart, WorldNet Daily, and so many others are only one small manifestation in the fire of liberty that is now exploding across the globe. You can see it in the news. You can feel it. You can witness it on the street. History's happening. They always say this election is the most important in our lifetimes, and we laugh it off. I wouldn't even get involved in past elections because they were so clearly frauds. This one's the big kahuna. A clear demarcation line, a crossroads between nationalism and tyranny, between Americanism and globalism. That's why we're doing this one time and one time only, because history's happening. A 52-hour live transmission kicking off Monday, November 7th, 2016 at 11 a.m., running right through Election Day the 8th, into the night at 3 p.m. and quite frankly beyond. It's historical, and it's part of overthrowing the dinosaur media, not just overthrowing the two-party corrupt system. I want to see 10 million viewers tune in over the 50-plus hours, and that's where you come in. You are the heart and blood of the InfoWar. If you spread the link to Infowars.com/show and point out that this is the alternative new media, this is the rebellion, this is the modern Paul Revere operation, then all of you are riding right beside us, not behind us. So spread the word, my Paul Reveres, no matter where you live in the world. To information warfare arms, the globalists are coming, and they will be met on the field. Infowars.com, powered by 1776. We're now just 3.5 days out. It's Friday. I'll be back this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. I'm intending to organize the crew to come in and do a limited 2-3 hour broadcast that'll be internet only. Stations are welcome to pick it up. We'll put it up on the satellite sometime tomorrow evening. Too much is breaking. Too much is happening right now. Now, the New York Times 3 days ago did a review of the high priestess, and we're going to our guest, of the cult that the head of the Democratic Party, or the head of Hillary's campaign, Podesta, attends. Where on the menu they have blood, semen, mother's milk, and they conduct ceremonies and then sacrifice children in effigy. At least that's what it appears. So we have the videos. I was told by our NYPD source, and told you this 2 days ago, that it was going to come out that it was basically a big blackmail operation. This is in the new Wikileaks. We're not saying that actual child sacrifice is happening here, but this is real Satanism. And she's even done a Reddit, Ask Me Anything, and Buckley can pop in and tell you about the high priestess, where she said, oh, if it's public, it's not a ritual, but if it's private, it is. And that's obviously what I told you last hour before I was aware of that. That's how they do it. It's how they sell this occult stuff to the public. But this is what Assange just says is coming out. And reportedly, stuff even wilder than this is coming out. So, Buckley, before we go to William Benny, with big bombshells on WikiLeaks and more, he's been vindicated, saying that this was a U.S. intelligence leak. That's now coming out everywhere. But real fast, Buckley, getting into that Reddit point from an Ask Me Anything with this lady, and tell us about her.
Exactly. So basically, there's lots of different celebrities that are, talk about the Illuminati, like Jay-Z, and some of the other celebrities that sort of hint at it with the imagery inside of their videos, etc. And the question is this always just some sort of playful take on spiritualism and just kind of a jokey kind of thing that's a little bit scary and spooky like Halloween, or is it real? And so when pressed by the reality of it, they're always going to fall back on, okay, no, it's art. We're just expressing ourselves in a certain way, that it's the darkness in our souls, the yin and the yang, the shadow, etc. But however, here is a really descriptive point. Mrs. Abramovich did a Reddit Ask Me Anything, and in that AMA, somebody said, Marina, what do you see the occult having within contemporary art? Can magic be made, not simply appropriated / performed? And this was her answer. Everything depends on which context you are doing what you are doing. If you are doing the occult magic in the context of art or in a gallery, then it is art. If you are doing it in a different context, in spiritual circles or private houses or on TV shows, it is not art. The intention, the context for what is made and where it is made defines what is art or what is not. So essentially, what she's doing right here is she is professing the fact that she is literally buying into this demonology and this idea of using power, occultic power, to subjugate people and torture people for their own means and for their own ascension into power over people.
That's right. And Buckley himself's an expert on this. We ought to get him to come in and interview about it someday. Thank you so much, Buckley. Now, that's one of our top researchers, Buckley Hammond, been here at InfoWars off and on for 20 years. Now, William Benny joins us. Again, we don't normally cover topics like this. I'm not I'm here as a sociologist and anthropologist looking at how they control political circles. Just like a local gang will have you go rob